For those watching the replay, go ahead and skip this countdown. For those watching the replay, go ahead and skip this countdown. For those in the chat, please say hi. For those in the chat, please say hi. Bradley, what's up?
Time to get it started, no delay, let's work. Wanna see you be an SEO expert. Paul Andre De Vera, steady dropping knowledge. Over 15 years in the game, so he knows all about it. Master the art of SEO, you will be amazed. Time to get your brand off page to on page. Dropping knowledge, legendary for sure. Whether you're just getting started or self-employed entrepreneur. Yeah, let's go. Subscribe to the SEO video show.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the SEO Video Show, where SEO is alive and fun. My name is Paul Andre De Vera, aka Dre, and I curate SEO videos released within the past week into about 1-minute clips. My favorite part of the show is when I get to introduce my guest, and my guest today is Dixon Jones, CEO of InLinks. Before we get started, I want to say hi to everyone in chats: Bradley, Alfonso, Andrew, Delilah, Ray, Elizabeth, so many of you all out there. Thank you for coming so early. And to everyone watching the replay, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I'm almost at 1,000. This episode will probably get me over there. Be sure to check out the link in the description to get your free swag. Now let's get on with the show.
This is Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. Why did Tiger Woods start studying SEO? To get his #1 ranking back.
Google Search Console released a new and improved crawl stats for your site. Number 1, total number of requests grouped by response code, crawled file type, crawl purposes, and Googlebot type. Number 2, detailed information on host status. Number 3, URL examples to show where in your site requests occurred. And number 4, a comprehensive summary for properties with multiple hosts and support for domain properties. There's a new way to search. This will be tough to optimize. Check this out. All right, guys, you let me know how you're going to optimize for the hum search. I'm curious if you guys are working with any artists. How are you doing that? Let me know, please. Last week on the Google Search Central channel on YouTube, they talked about crawl budget. Matthew Woodward just released a new video series called Unbox SEO. And one tip is how he helps us minimize crawl budget waste. Let's check it out.
Now, index bloat is one of those problems that lives below the surface, but if you're not paying attention to it, it's like having a big weight around your neck, and that's really the opposite of what you want when you're trying to grow your search traffic. And their index bloat is created by category pages and tag pages. So first of all, let's look at the category pages. They have categories for acrylic accessories, acrylic furniture, acrylic interiors, acrylic seating, acrylic tables. On top of the category index bloat, we've also got a lot of tag index bloat coming into play here. So the issues here are quite widespread, and so we want to get between 5 and 10 categories here, either as just acrylic, oak, or the different types of materials, or a list of the different types of product categories, seating, desks, and those kinds of things, right? Now, let me show you why this is particularly important on the furniture market. If we jump into Screaming Frog here, you can see, let me scroll down on the right, that in response codes, and specifically blocked by robots.txt, 66% of the entire website is blocked by robots.txt. So we're wasting all of it, like the majority of our crawl budget, 66% of it is being wasted because of index bloat to category pages and tag pages.
Do an audit of your category page and tag pages, guys. Check that out. Speaking of Screaming Frog, I saw they had another big update this week to the software. Check it out. On Crawling Mondays this past week, the topic was about keywords. Judith Lewis drops a nice nugget. Let's check it out.
A lot is that getting the site links and organic search results is often keyword research based, and I use jump to links on my pages based on what I've seen in People Also Ask and also ask.com, as well as keyword research in SEMrush includes questions. So I'll often utilize that long tail, so to speak, data to help me grab more real estate in the search result for a particular keyword search. Because, you know, when you're writing on one topic, you can get those jump to links as site links in the search results. But don't everybody do that, because then it won't work as well for me if you're all doing it.
So that's a nice little nugget there. Be sure to add jump links and possibly get site links in search. Interesting stuff. I could have sworn I mentioned the latest documentary by Google, but here's a little commentary from the Yoast guys that reminded me of it.
It's an hour long, but it's a really excellent introduction into how Google works from a mechanical perspective, the kinds of things they're trying to achieve, some of the kinds of problems they're trying to solve. And it's a really nice intro into that world and that ecosystem. And there were lots of interviews and candid conversations with people who worked on the original algorithms, with people who were involved in some of the commercial models and decision making. It's a fascinating insight into a kind of broad overview of that world that you might not get otherwise. So if bits of SEO are a bit new to you, or you want a refresher on some of the kind of more Google-esque side of it, this is great. It's a really good watch.
And you know, you guys, this show is for you. This is from beginners to any SEO, from beginner to legend, is worth a watch. In the documentary, they're going over one of the hottest topics of our industry today, which is BERT. So what is BERT's role in SEO? Chris Penn answers.
So with all this technical information, what are we supposed to do about it? Well, a few things. One, everyone should be reading the search quality rating guidelines and understanding the training data set that's being fed to BERT, because that's critical for understanding how Google wants its engine to be trained. These human raters are going in and rating pages and saying, you know, this looks good, this looks bad, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down, high, medium, low. When we are using Google, we should be paying close attention to things like, for example, when it outlines a snippet in their new passage results. why? What made that snippet so important, that piece of text so important on that page? Can we get a sense of what makes that credible enough to display it as part of the search result? And then third, when it comes to interpreting how these models work and how our content works, we need to be thinking about the features of the text and other things we publish. Things around named entity recognition. And so that demands domain expertise, that demands subject matter expertise. And that, again, is why the BERT algorithm is so powerful, because it can look at the stuff that would be considered credible and see how many named entities are in there, how many certain types of text and prepositions and all these things are used. Our goal as marketers is to create content that original, in-depth, well-researched, lots of citations, kind of like, writing a really good paper, writing a really good article.
I put a link to the search quality rater guidelines in the description, so be sure to check that out. To extend the conversation on optimizing with entities, my guest today was on the Edge of the Web podcast the other day, and here's a quick clip of how you can check out these entities.
What should we be doing to make ourselves aligned with more and more of an entity relationship, as well as a content relationship series of tasks, right?
There's a few things you can do. There's a free API that Google has. They have an NLP API that you can look at a body of content, and it will extract out what it sees as the entities within that content. So you could put your main competitor pages or people that are competing with you into that and sit there and see what entities they're coming out with. And the thing is, if they're your competitors, then you need to make sure that you're talking about those entities and in a way that Google can understand on your content as well. It's very good at finding entities that are starting with a capital letter, for want of a better word. So things like brands, locations. It's very good at understanding those kind of entities.
We can ask Dixon more about this, but now, because the favorite part of my show, please feel free to answer questions during our conversation, because he's here for you, he's here for us, and I want to make sure we all learn from our conversation. Let me go ahead and get this started here. All right. Dixon is a well-known, respected, and award-winning member of the internet marketing community with over 20 years of experience in search marketing and 25 years of business innovation. He has an immense depth of knowledge about the internet marketing world and business startups. Over the last decade, he dedicated to building the BERT to business as marketing director at Majestic, the world's largest link intelligence database. He is now heavily involved in owning the entity SEO tool space as CEO of InLinks.net. Please welcome Dixon Jones. Dixon, hello.
That is just one awesome introduction. I'm gonna take that. That's gonna have to go on the homepage of DixonJones.com. I tell you.
Oh, you got it. I mean, thank you for the time for being my guest today. I know time is precious, but I know you and I are playing our part of putting good content on the internet.
Oh, I tell you what, I'm supposed to be on holiday today, but for this, I'm back. So
Well, it's your birthday, right? It was your birthday recently.
Birthday yesterday, so it's been a pretty good week, because Tuesday we won, InLinks won a search award at the UK Search Awards. We won the best search software. Wednesday was my first day off. Yay! Thursday, birthday. Got myself a new desk that goes up and down, and I can stand on my desk and stuff for my birthday present. And then and then today, highlight of the week for me.
Oh yeah, thanks, thank you.
Thanks to all you guys for starting early, because it's 5 p.m. here, and 5 p.m. on a Friday. That's nearly beer o'clock time.
Yeah, I know. I was like, all right, especially it's Black Friday. I know, like here, everyone in the States are at least awake, looking for all the sales. So I'm like,
I'm amazed anyone's awake. Anyone's there at all. But there we go.
All right. So, I mean, okay, before we talk about entities and semantics, semantic SEO, I want to take us back a little bit. I mean, well, actually, what I mentioned earlier when I thanked you was like, you know, we're putting good stuff on the internet. You actually had, that came from, I did some research on your TED Talk. I've never had a TEDx speaker here, which is awesome. That was such an awesome presentation.
I bet you have, actually. I bet you have. You just, you know, we just don't talk about it.
Oh, okay. No, but it was very inspirational. And I actually want to, I want you to explain this real quick, because I think this requires some like explanation. I'm curious. What is this image here? And it's something that was, you brought, you know, this is something you talked about.
Okay, so this is so the actual one is actually white, but this one's obviously a you know, colorless version of it. But this is a 3D representation of the internet that we built that we built on a 3D printer that was on the International Space Station. And then for the TEDx talk, it came back down on SpaceX and then back to the Majestic offices. And it actually came in about 3 days before my TEDx talk. And then I could bring it out. The real one I could bring out at the TEDx talk. And, you know, so yeah, we built a 3D virtual innovation of the, you know, version of the internet in space. So you've got to turn that, you've got it on it's on its side, actually. Technically, you got it's basically every website on the internet scored by trust flow and citation flow, which is Majestic's 2 metrics, which are both numbers between 0 and 100. And so the higher the mountain, it sort of looks like a mountain. So, you know, those are all the spam is at the highest point, basically, because there's lots and lots of websites with 0, 0, you know, and then very, very few right at the top at the you know, at the 100 kind of stuff. So you got to turn it on its side to see how it all works. But it represents basically, yeah, hundreds of billions of websites. That's so interesting. Like, what inspires you to like just send something up to space, and how did you even get in contact with someone to send something up to space? So we had Mel Carson was our ambassador in the US, and he'll be grateful for the plug. And he was working with Microsoft before he kind of set out on his own, and I grabbed him when he set out on his own and got him as an ambassador for Majestic. And one of his roles was going around other conferences, and he found himself in front of a conference where they were talking about space, and NASA were and actually a company were taking this 3D printer up to this International Space Station to build parts that, you know, for the space station, so they didn't have to make a they could just design. If something broke on the space station, they could literally 3D print a part. So it's a pretty important thing for them to take up there. So then they're interested in, well, we've got to get it up there, and anything we can do when it's not making anything, can we find sponsors to do that kind of thing? So it turned into a pretty big a deal for us, and we kind of, I guess we saw an opportunity and jumped, really. But then finding meaning out of all that was quite a journey that ended up in the TEDx talk, which you guys can go and see if you can find it on the internet. Yeah, definitely got to check it out. That talk is awesome. I mean, you just shocked the crowd when you pulled it out. Like, they were the first person to see it. It was just like a few days, like you said, right after you got it. I mean, total big moment. All right. Okay, let's take this back even further now. I mean, you've been doing business innovation for about 25 years. Take me back 25 years. What was Dixon Jones doing 25 years ago? Probably longer than that. You probably read that on something that I wrote a few years ago. So I finished university in 1988. I was president of Students' Union there for a year. And then so I started my first business in 1989. And that was writing and running murder mystery evenings for a living. So I sort of left university. It was Thatcher's Britain. So, you know, getting a job was pretty damned hard. There was 3 million people unemployed. And so I, you know, and I always wanted to set in my own business anyway. So, but I didn't have any money. So I basically turned my gaming hobby into a business, and it sort of turned role playing into a business training kind of entertainment-y thing, where, you know, you could have up to 100 people in a room, and every person's got a character in a murder mystery play and murder mystery sort of scenario, and we also gave everyone sort of money and props and various other bits and objectives, and then over the course of an evening they were trying to solve murder, but they were also trying to do whatever the character was trying to do. But it wasn't it wasn't kids, it was adults, and so we did them for American Express, for British Airways, for all sorts of companies over the years. So yeah, it was fun. But I was never going to make $1 million at it. But you know, it got me to my wedding.
It got you to a wedding. So did you get married like 20 years ago when you got your started doing SEO?
Got to be more than that. Just 20 years, because my daughter's 21 next month, so it's got to be more 25 years ago. I met my wife. Actually, she was working for Marriott at the time, and I met her at a murder mystery, and she was supposed to be bringing the flyers for the murder mystery because Marriott wanted to have their own flyers. It was way before you printed all your own stuff off. You know, they wanted to have their own bit of kit and brand it for a show, which was in a travel show in 1995, and she was late, so I couldn't start my murder mystery because she was rushing around. So yeah, 1995, met my wife at a murder mystery, and yeah, that was that really.
So how did it venture off to going to SEO?
Well, okay, a couple of things happened really. My first website, the reason I found out about SEO really is instead of when the internet came along in 1998 or so, I thought, okay, I've got to get a website for my murder mystery company. In fact, what I want to do is get my murder mystery company. I want to get a online version of my murder mystery. Well, basically, I got my hosting company. Instead of choosing a hosting company based on price or any other reason, I didn't know how my data would be, and I wanted to know how to get my data back if somebody stole it. So literally, I went for the hosting company where I saw the building. So I went for that one, not on price or anything like that, but it's the one I drove to between work and home, and they every Thursday had a file, a log file analyzer in my stats, so I could sit there and see people coming to my website from Ohio and from places I'd never get my actors to. So I then thought, well, you know what? Two things. Firstly, I'll have an online version, and then so it was a spin-off business. So we had an online murder mystery company, and secondly, I was sitting there thinking, well, okay, why did that person come to my site from Ohio? And I went to Yahoo, the big name in town at the time, and typed in murder mystery games. And there, above all the results, was an advert for Adidas. And I thought, you know what? Yahoo have not understood their own business model at all. I thought the real money is in that result right underneath. Doesn't matter what the keyword is. That's what the result is. So that's where I started learning about search engine optimization. So, and then set up a consultancy in 1999. Which went on for, well, it's still going on today. I don't know any of it anymore. But
so you actually just learned SEO on your own, just kind of like doing trial and error, or is there anyone? Because I don't think anyone's
were a few people. Okay. There were a few people stared going out, but the thing is that the model was quite different. So I was pretty much one of the first in the UK, and the reason for that is that the UK at the time, all local phone calls were paid by the minute. So the internet was getting charged by the minute. So it was a lot harder, and it took us until about 2000, I think, before we were all getting, effectively metered free internet access. So I started out before that, which was good, but it gave me a bit of a head start. But yeah, I was pretty much all of us were learning as we go. But a lot of people were just guessing at it. Others, very few, were sort of looking up the research and the proper papers and things. You get some things right, some things wrong. But then, I got a couple of good clients. I got Mohammed Al Fayed as a client, so he's a guy that owned Harrods, and that kind of set me on the right course, really.
Okay, let me take this back. I found this one thing. Let me rewind real quick.
You do your research, man. I tell you what.
I'm curious. I found this. What is this? It's eerie. Let's let it play. Let's see. It's almost done right here, right?
I think it's just repeating. I think it's a GIF.
It's gonna. I got Eva Longoria here. I was like, what is this? It's so mysterious. All right, here it should end right about now.
Okay.
All right. So what is this?
That was part of a early presentation. I was doing a presentation in Las Vegas, actually, I think, and I was trying to sort of explain to people how they can run marketing campaigns on the internet that generate enough interest to generate links to your website, because that mathematically then turns into, traffic from search engines. And so the start of that video was actually I just woke up one day when Google Earth came out, and my son was tiny, so he was just like 7 or something like that, six, probably about 6, and I saw Google Earth, and he was just about to go off to school. I said, CJ, you got to come and have a look at this. And I said, look, you see, this is our house. And then I can go out of our house and we can see our own house here, and then we can go all the way up it. I didn't in that thing actually take him all the way to the magazine in the desert, but and it blew him away. And I thought, you know what, there's got to be sort of a story around here. So yeah, it was really part of a presentation to show how you can do campaigns that are going to generate links on the internet, and how they got there. The magazine had got itself into Google Earth basically by being filmed from space. So I've got a space going on.
So speaking of links, let's take your time to like Majestic. Like, how was your time over there? I mean, I've been a Majestic user since I think about 2011. I've been using it as a part of an integration with BrightEdge, the enterprise SEO tool. I've been a BrightEdge customer since 2011, and I've been playing with it, and I have access to it, and it's like it's the definitive link tool. So tell me your
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, when you actually got in there.
So by this stage, I'd been running Receptional, which was that video was when I was running an agency, and so the only game at the only link game in town at the time was a thing called Yahoo Site Explorer, which was basically a guy who became a friend of mine. Actually, he'd set this thing up in Yahoo to try and undermine Google, frankly, because they didn't like the fact that their link data was getting given away. And that was the only game in town. And Rand was building out Moz, and this guy in Birmingham called Alex was building out a thing called, it was called at the time Majestic SEO. And so my agency, I kind of looked at this thing called Majestic, and I paid, I think, £10 for some data, and so to the rest of you, that's like about $13, something like that, for a bit of data, and press a button, and it didn't give me any information. So what do? You get onto support, you complain, tapped away on the computer, and then I found that the owner, the guy that had built it, emailed me back and said, I'm sorry about that. It was a bug. I fixed the bug. Here's the data that you wanted, and here's a bunch more credits as well. And once I figured out that he was the only guy in town that wasn't using Yahoo Site Explorer's data, he'd actually crawled the internet pretty much. We did a lot more after that. I thought, you know what? I know everybody in the industry, everybody that needs that. So, and that suddenly became much more interesting to me than running an agency. So we made a deal for a few years where I was kind of like the marketing, the sole marketing partner to help them get off the ground. And eventually that became, it's just easier for me to become the marketing director at Majestic, and just, that's when I started pulling away from my agency, and yeah, so Majestic was kind of Alex in his bedroom at the time.
And you're still the brand ambassador, right? You're still
I'm still very much. I mean, I've pulled back, so I have no strategic interest. Any secrets you hear about Majestic now are just public from me now. I don't have any inside knowledge. I'm not on the board or anymore. So I pulled back a couple of years ago, and I was going to kind of take it easy. But I stayed as an ambassador anyway, and that's kind of, I've quite enjoyed that, and it's got me into doing my own video show now for Majestic, and I was going to conferences and doing the talking, but hopefully that'll happen again next year when we stop being locked down. But
yeah, can't wait for that. I mean, we got to hang out in person one of these days.
Absolutely, man.
So from Majestic, now let's get into InLinks, entity SEO. This is something that have pioneered. Like, I haven't heard anyone talk about it before you. You've been talking about entity SEO for some quite time now. Like, how?
So I started realizing that Google was starting to move its whole model when they bought MetaWeb or Freebase off of bought MetaWeb, which was the company that had Freebase, and I didn't really understand Freebase at the time, and a couple of my friends, said, oh, you've got to get yourself into Freebase, and this is cool stuff, and I didn't really get it until I realized that they'd paid a huge amount of money for it, and then I thought, okay, I better figure this out. So I started looking at it and started trying to figure it out. And it took me a long, long time to realize that it's not that difficult, actually. It's weird. I mean, everybody was talking about, entities and word-to-vec algorithms and all sorts of long-winded kind of ideas and stuff. And I've got this. This book here is one of these guys is Norvig. Russell is Peter Norvig is head of research at Google, director of research or something like that at Google. And that's a big book. That is. It's 1,000 pages. So you kind of sit there and think, my God, can I learn it all again in my 50s? And so when I pulled back from Majestic, a couple of things happened. The first is my wife said, get away from under my feet and go and do something useful with your life, Dixon. And the second thing was I kind of started to really try and understand the more about this entity stuff. I had been talking about it in the last few years at Majestic as well, because Majestic have been getting involved in topics and stuff and analyzing links along topics and stuff and topical trust flow and things. So so I kind of really got my head around it a lot better. And then I kind of put myself out there saying, well, you know what, if somebody's got a technology, the great thing I learned about Majestic is I'm not a programmer. And I need to have a programmer that's cleverer than me, that's got to do the hard work. So Alec, so the guys at Majestic are all bloody geniuses, absolutely geniuses, and they weren't going to leave because it was their business. I was just the front man. Everyone thought I owned it. I was just a front man, really. I owned a bit, so I kind of set myself up on my website for that, saying I was going to be a non-exec director with a few companies and things. And then this guy from France comes along called Fred. And he fills in my form. He's the only one that actually fills in my form, saying, you've got a good business idea, fill in the form and answer the question so I can understand what you're talking about. And a few people kind of did things and they didn't fill in the form, and they didn't read the small print. He read the small print, put it down there, had a look at what he was building, and you know what? I thought, I know everybody in the industry that needs this shit. And this time I'm 20 years older and a lot wiser. Also, I've got I can invest in the business as well, and I can make sure that he doesn't make the mistakes that I made as a youngster. So we made a proper deal. We got it, kosher. I was planning to be chief marketing officer again, or the same as I kind of was at Majestic, taking the marketing role, but with him being French and me being British, and then Brexit going on and stuff, we had to choose where we're going to set the company up in the UK or France. We decided the UK, and so I've taken on the CEO role, and that's okay. At some point, if there's any really good CEOs out there that want to invest in this business, I don't mind giving up that, going sideways. Give me the marketing job.
There you go, guys.
So
So I mean,
yeah, you got to come in with a good business plan, though.
There you go.
Take our idea and take it up.
InLinks is looking for leadership there. You'll be around good people.
Yeah.
I mean,
I could have just taught myself out of a job there. I should know.
So I mean, with InLinks, so this is your company. You're a co-founder then. This is part of your
absolutely.
Company.
Yeah.
Okay.
So So it's me and Fred. We got a pretty tight, tiny team, but that's why I like it. when we get to around about 20 people, it's my job is to get off the boat, because I build systems that get us up to around about that kind of level, and then I'm, it all goes political.
Got it. Okay, so let's try to take it on to where you were, like, in your earlier this week, you're on the Edge of the Web podcast, and you're talking about how people can use like Google's NLP API to help that. I mean, are there any other tools? Like, I know you mentioned like maybe even Google Trends can help out sometimes. How?
Well, yeah, you're asking me to talk about my own tool now, really, because I mean, there's not really. There's a thing called GPT-2 and now recently GPT-3, which will try and turn a bunch of keywords into sentences, but there's not that many natural language processing algorithms that are publicly available out there. So there's Google's ones, which is, I think it's free for up to 5,000 search things. Searches a month. I don't know if the search is the right word, really. Passes a month, and then InLinks has built its own. But we've the reason we built our own is because Google's doesn't return very many entities, really. And also, if you're an SEO, what we really want to do is show you what entities are in a bit of text that Google hasn't yet picked up. So we need to write a better or a more aggressive NLP program to be able to demonstrate what's there, and we are seeing around about 5 times as many entities in any corpus of text than Google's NLP. Google's NLP, I was saying on the show there, is really good at picking up things with a capital letter, really. So their algorithms are good at picking up brands, locations, people sometimes, famous people, but not so good at picking up concepts like search engine optimization or video or these kind of things. And of course they're all entities, so really anything with a Wikipedia entry is for us an entity. I mean, if it's good enough to get a Wikipedia entry, it's good enough to be called a thing in its own right. And then from there we can sit there and try and work it all out, and so we can sit there and say, right, you know what, there's all these things in the world that your competitors are talking about for a particular amount of text. Your content is talking about these things, so here's your gaps. These are the things that you're going to need to talk about to beat that. But then you combine it again with a knowledge graph. So we've also got a database of all the things that are in the world, or not all the things in the world, but we're working on it. And it's not as large as Google's yet, but we're working on that as well. And so we can then find things that are semantically close, or video and YouTube are mentioned a lot together, kind of thing. So they're semantically close. So when you're sitting there and trying to optimize for video, for example, then we can say, well, that depends. The things you'd write about would depend on what your business is. If your video is, if you're a video production company, then you maybe want to talk about kind of cameras and microphones and green screen setups and things. But if you're if you're the SEO video show, you might want to be talking about YouTube and routes to market and personalities in the industry and that kind of thing. So you'd want to talk about different things depending on the core of your business. And we've got this categorization of entities as well, which is turning out to be pretty useful.
Oh, that's a knowledge bomb right there. So be sure to put your entities. Like,
that's a tip for you. That's a tip for you. That is. I mean, that is. Yeah. I don't think there's anybody else that's got this categorization of entities.
Yeah.
And then being able to turn it into a positive idea, and you can do it without the tool. It'll just take you a long time. You've got to go through all of your competitors, extract all of the underlying ideas and concepts and stuff. You've got to engage Brain 2.0 to work out what other things are semantically close as well. And then you've got to map it all back up again into an idea. And that's something that just takes seconds. Really.
Oh, no. Yeah, I was actually just doing that for a project recently. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just put this in InLinks real quick. Boom. I was like literally press the button, like you're talking milliseconds where it shows up, and you have all this organization. I'm a big fan now. It's like I'm using it a lot more, and I want you to like, why should we be doing this? Why even talk about entities? Why put this all together? Like for everyone that's watching.
It's really important. And with you mentioned, you talked about BERT a little earlier on in the show, and Google's. The way I've seen it is a mathematical problem, and there's somebody in the YouTube chat that was on that saw my my SEO Rockstars presentation the other day. So sorry to that person. I'm repeating
Brad.
it, but
Yeah, Brad.
I see a mathematical. Yeah, it's Bradley. Yeah, it's a mathematical problem. So when we started out on the internet, there were billions of pages on the internet. But then they're turned into trillions of pages on the internet, and it's growing really, really, really fast. So indexing the world's information by page is not as efficient if you're going to have trillions and trillions of records that it is by indexing the world's information by idea, by entity, by topic. You can choose it. You can call it idea, topic, entity. Don't care what you call it. But if you store every article as if it was an encyclopedia, like Wikipedia, then all of a sudden it goes from trillions of records to hundreds of billions of records. A billion, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of records. So that's a massive decrease in the number of specific things. So it gets rid of all of their duplicate content problems, basically. They've got, they're storing these ideas, and then what they're doing is using the web pages to feed those ideas. So they're trying to make their ideas richer. The bad news for SEOs is that they're trying to keep these ideas, and they've got them in their own static folders, and the trick is getting you customers back to your website. So that's an SEO problem, but understanding that is really important, because Google are trying to then build up this knowledge base of ideas, and once they've done that, they don't just have to get the data from web pages. They could get it from medical records, or they could get it from song lyrics, or they can get it from photographs, or whatever. So they can augment all of these ideas from other sources apart from web pages. So of course it's the future for a search engine that's not going to scale page by page, because page by page doesn't give them all the information on the internet, because some of it ain't on the internet.
Knowledge bomb right there. You're just dropping them,
I've got 2
Dixon.
knowledge bombs. Okay, what's okay? How many knowledge bombs do I have to get to make a record?
You can keep on going. I mean, there's something that you actually recommended. Like, I don't know if you read the whole thing too. I don't know how big it is. I actually ordered the book. It's called the Entity book, or Entity Based.
Entity SEO.
Entity.
Yes. It's a book by, I can't remember his name. Begins with a K.
From Google, right?
The PDF. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, they're from Google. They're from Google. The engineer.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, okay. No. This one's a guy from Google.
Oh, okay.
There's an engineer from Google called Paul Hahr.
Oh yeah.
Hahr. I don't think he's written any book. He might have written books. He's bound to have written papers. But he's also done some videos, including some Google Webmaster meetup videos, and he's a guy that really, I suddenly realized that he was somebody I should probably pay attention to. But he's not the guy that wrote the book called Entity SEO, I think it's called. And it's a PDF file you can get for free, or you can buy the book, and the book's expensive. So, you've gone and bought the big book, But it was the first person that really tried to collect all of the information, and in a sort of a serious form, and put it into some kind of order. And he does a really good job of explaining, why Wikipedia is such a powerful beast of a website, because of the way that it's structured. And so I do talk about that, because I thought that was a very interesting a chapter in his book. How Wikipedia works, basically, and why, and then the fact that then generates the seed set for Google's own knowledge graph, then goes on and takes it sort of to a whole new level. But it's a good book. It's quite hard going, but it at least started me understanding some of this stuff and getting it right in my mind. I don't know, by the way, if the way that I'm looking at this is the way that other entity-based SEOs are looking at it, but the ones that I talk to, go, yes, get it, yeah, we seem to be getting on fine, and I think we're lucky that Google now is a little bit more open than it used to be, if you start reading, the papers, Google Scholar is actually a godsend really to try and figure out some of this stuff. And so you can get a lot further than you think by reading the Google stuff, but sometimes it's opaque in that it's buried in scholarly works.
So if you want to get in the mind of Dixon, read Google scholarly articles. There you go.
Well, yes, I wish. Yes. I wouldn't put myself out as a scholar really. I try to take the idea and simplify it. And I think if I can do anything, it's when I figure out an idea, I can explain it back simply. So one of my best presentations I ever did was explaining the PageRank algorithm, because no one could really figure it out. You could figure it out, and I learned from a guy called Aaron Wall who wrote a fantastic thing in 1999 that I read about the PageRank algorithm. That's how I learned sort of SEO 1.0 really. I remember waking up one night in the middle of the night saying, I've got to read that again, and getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to read this thing again, because he'd explained it pretty well. But that was way before videos and
that's how I actually learned SEO myself. He put out a PDF called the SEO book, and it was like something so it was something where actually it was him. It's like I was able to, he was actually the only one actually putting stuff out there, how to do SEO back in those days, and it was a PDF. So you're actually on a few shows. I mean, you're also on a weekly show on SEO Conspiracy. Like is that something? Yeah,
with Laurent Borelli. Yeah, so I've known Laurent for probably 20 years, nearly 20 years. So, and he, at the start of lockdown, he contacted me and said, "What are we going to do? Should we fancy doing that show we always promised to do?" So they're fun. 15-minute. Conspiracies. I mean, we're a lot less. We might be getting a few things wrong along that one. It's not done with quite the same panache as I try and do InLinks with, because we're making things.
There's great conversation there, right? Like, the theories and trying to break it. I mean, great conversation comes out of those guys. You should definitely check it out. SEO Conspiracies, the YouTube channel. All right. So I wanted to go ahead and see
SEOconspiracy.com, actually.
Yeah. SEO
I think it's
Conspiracy.
Conspiracy.com. Honestly, Dre, you must be spending. There's only 24 hours in a day. How much time do you spend watching all this stuff?
I spend a lot for all my guests. I mean, this is something I actually have fun doing it, and I'm learning at the same time. So this is something.
Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah. But never have I been interviewed by somebody that knows so much more about my life than you do.
All right, guys. Let me see. Anyone in the chat, please ask any questions. I want to make sure. We actually had one come in. Let me see here. We had one question. Let me see. Can you see that? It says, question. Tell us, please, about deep link, like a link from a mobile app. How they boost SEO. You have any insights on that? On deep links?
There's no... I don't have an answer for you. So I'm going to sit there and say it doesn't. From Google's core algorithm, it doesn't. However, things are obviously moving now in that Google is understanding a lot more. Most apps are effectively websites in some way, shape, or form. Really, they're effectively can be read from the web as well. So I suspect that may be changing as we speak, really. And it may be that if you've got a link within an app, it may also have a live web page URL that Google can crawl as well. But I'm speculating on that. What I would say is that Google is not limiting its information sources to web pages anymore. It is expanding its horizons. It is wanting to understand the world's information. It's not trying to understand the internet's information. So if it can get that information in a structured data format, then it's going to be likely to try and use that now or in the future.
There you go. All right, let me go ahead and ask my question that I ask all my SEO professionals here. If there's no more, if there's anyone else that wants to ask a question, go ahead. But one question I ask all my SEO professionals here on the show is like, what would you tell someone to get into SEO, the SEO industry, like someone that wants to become an SEO professional? What would be your answer for them to get into the industry that we're in?
I think that following the right people is pretty important. I think the network that you build up is ultimately what will sustain you, because there is too much to learn. I think I don't think any one person can know it all anymore, and it's going to be very difficult to help a customer that comes along with a problem that's not within your niche. So I would try and focus on one part of the game for now, and there's plenty of parts to play on that we haven't played with very much. You know, you talked about optimizing for songs humming. You know,
yeah, right.
So there's one right there. But voice search certainly is big. And there's new mediums coming through as well, and there's lots of things outside Google. So how can you get organic traffic from Facebook, or how can you get organic traffic from Twitter and stuff? There's lots of that that's still relatively underutilized. Certainly newer things, the TikToks of this world. So I think that there's plenty to do. But the network that you build up is what's going to see you through to the end. The reason I've lasted this long is not because I'm cleverer than anybody else. It's because I went to more conferences than anybody else, and didn't put my foot into it foot in it too often. But you know, I've made some howlers along my years for sure. But I think that your network is really important.
Thank you, Dixon, for that. That was awesome. Okay, so how can anyone get a hold of you? I know you're on Twitter, LinkedIn. How can else anyone get a hold of you? Is there any Black Friday deals going on?
I see. We don't do Black Friday.
Yeah.
Well, we do, but you know,
we
don't really
you're Nickel.
Much. Oh, that's why I nearly wouldn't make it here today. I forgot. I didn't know it was Black Friday, so I went to go out and just get some power extenders for my wife's putting up the Christmas decorations, and I thought I'd just nip out to the shop. You know, even though we're in lockdown, I thought the hardware store's still supposed to be open, and I got caught in all sorts of traffic. Now I realise why. It's Black Friday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fair enough. You know. Anyway, no Black Friday tips. You know, right. If you can find me on DixonJones.com. Got it. Twitter is Dixon_Jones. I'm not difficult to find, really. Dixon with an X. And then InLinks.net. If you want to have a one-to-one demo of it, then sign up for the free account, and you'll get an email saying, why don't you sign up for the free demo? And literally, I'll give everyone 30 minutes, take them through it one by one on Zoom or whatever.
You do it?
And go through it. You know, I do it myself. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Because honestly, I've done the maths. So, you know, you talk about conversion rates and things at times, and honestly, I've done the maths. If we were getting people up to the free account, then 1 in 20 were converting into customers, and that's pretty typical for the industry. If they go on a demo, 1 in 2 convert into buying customers. So for me, that's a no-brainer. That is ultimately, I'm going to make all of my stuff what's that, 10 times better or whatever. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is, they go up and sign up to a tool and they don't know how to use it, and 30 minutes and then they realize how to use it. It turns out they're 8 times more likely to stay as a customer as well. So so basically, what looks like, you know, 30 minutes of my time every time for one person, that person is 8 times more likely to stay as a customer if they're going to be a customer, and they're going to be 5 times as likely to go from a free to a paid account than if they hadn't. So for me, every single one is really, really important, and the feedback I get from those as well is really important. You know, some people, it's not, you know, InLinks is not for them. Other people, it's, oh, now I get it, and fall off chair backwards stuff. And those are the ones I like most. You know,
love it, guys. If you want 30 minutes with Dixon, sign up for a demo account. Check it out. And I mean, Dixon, thank you again for coming along on the show. Can you please hold on real quick?
I appreciate it. I'm way, no problem at all.
Just please hold on while I sign off here. All right, let me see here. All right, that wraps up this week's of the SEO video show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And check us back next week at a special time. It'll be about 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I want to lead you off with this wise words from a wise man.
To do something great, you need to start with something small. But it does help to have a huge ambition. And along the way, you're going to need to be reminded of your ambition and your focus. And you write content to help yourself build feedback loops. And And that's where the content comes in. It's not to sell it to others, it's to sell it to yourself. Because great content, content worthy of the web, is content that you write for yourself to understand where you are now and where you want to go. Thank you, and dream on.
Thank you for watching. Hope you come back next week. Make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss a thing. Hope you learn something new, cause the vibe is incredible. From the special SEO professionals, SEO video show. Let's work. Want to see you be an SEO expert. Paul Andre De Vera helping you step it up. No delay right now. Time to level up. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Woo!